This is my Hobonichi Flip-Through Part 1 for May of 2016. So do the first half of the month. On May 1st, it was definitely lovely weather for ducks. We had pouring rain, downpours that morning. And I had a 5-mile trail race that I had to run. And I did it. I think it could have been worse. If it had been raining the days leading up to it, it would have been a lot worse. But we had had a kind of a dry week, and then it poured that Sunday morning. So we got through it, but it was definitely probably the wettest race that I've done thus far. On the 2nd, had a sick kid at home. My kids have been passing around this respiratory thing, or they were for the first half of the month. It felt like just there was always one of them with some kind of a problem. So all errands had to be postponed because couldn't take a sick kid out anywhere and didn't want to leave a sick kid at home. That night, our Girl Scout troop had a meeting. My girls are raising money to purchase an AED, a defibrillator unit, for a local campground. That's their project they're working on for the latter half of this year, and they'll be working on it through next year. So we had kind of a mock-up of an AED that I made using a shoebox, since it's a little hard to get our hands on an actual AED trainer unit. And they practiced, they learned how AEDs work, what kinds of things the AED says to you to talk you through a rescue. So that worked quite well. Low tech, but it worked. On Tuesday the 3rd, I would really love to finally paint the white walls in our house. We've been here since '09 and still have not painted our white walls. I don't think I'm going to get to it this summer either, but I'm thinking that could be a fall project. Also looking at some new coffee tables. And my son and I finished the Room 3 on the iPad. If you're looking for a really awesome puzzle game, the Room series by Fireproof Games, Room 1, 2, and 3, so much fun, so cool. And we got through Room 3. It was a lot of fun. And my son is just replaying it and replaying it and replaying it. He really enjoys it. I ran 3 miles that evening. On Wednesday the 4th, more sick at home, kids still passing around illness. I bought a new cookbook. It's the Real Simple Dinner Cookbook, and I like it a lot because it divides, the cookbook's divided up by common ingredients, and it gives you maybe a half dozen different recipes or more that you could do with each ingredient. So I like it. It gives me some extra ideas for dinners. Bought some pizza dough to make penne alla vodka pizza, which I intended to do it the next day, but that got moved because we took an impromptu trip to Maruichi, which is a small Japanese grocery outside Washington, D.C., and there is a wonderful little Japanese diner on the first floor of their center. Tamari is the diner. They have great Japanese diner food. They do have sushi now. They didn't used to, but it's not a typical Japanese restaurant that you'd find around here, because they have things like my favorite dish, which is wafu Hamburg steak. They have rice and lots of different kinds of ramen. And in this area, it's hard to find Japanese restaurants that aren't just kind of sushi and teriyaki. So I love going to Tamari any chance I get. While we were there at Maruichi, we got some strawberry Baumkuchen, which is like a cake with the strawberry filling. Got some Calpico. We got some Kewpie mayonnaise. Very fun day out. You can see I have really minimal artwork on this Friday the 6th. We were a little busy. Still dealing with a sick baby. He was not feeling well. My daughter was getting ready for a Girl Scout Hawaiian dance that night. Didn't have much time to do more impressive artwork. And I was going to do more with this, but I thought, you know what? This kind of sums up how that day went. The next day, Saturday the 7th, I went to the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival. It was a little bit of a drive to get there. It was so very, if you're a Heathers fan, it was so very. I have been a knitter for 9 or 10 years now, and I have never made it to the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival. There's just always something going on that weekend that prevents me from getting there. This is the first time I have actually made it out there. And it was so much fun. I had such a great time. I got terrific yarn and a new set of circular needles. It was really a good time. So I'm going to make an effort. I'm really going to try to get there next May. Very cool place. Especially because my local yarn shops around here, a number of them have gone out of business. And there aren't a whole lot of places I can go to get yarn where it's not mail ordered, where I can actually look at it ahead of time. So it was a very worthwhile day. Next day, Sunday the 8th, was Mother's Day. Went into the city for my daughter's 5K for Girls on the Run. I ran that with her. And we came home, did a little Mother's Day celebrating. We got some frozen yogurt. I ran 6 miles. And I did some knitting with my fun new yarn I got. This is a drawing of the pattern I picked up at the Sheep and Wool Festival. It's called the Turkata Wrap, and it's a really neat lace knitted wrap. It's got a really pretty, like a coral gradient with some gray and pale yellow and black in it by Amba Designs. Very, very cool pattern. It's been a while since I've knitted lace. And I've never been a terrific lace knitter. This is a very simple lace pattern, but still, for someone like me who rarely knits lace, it was still a challenge. And I remembered a few rows too late that you should always put a lifeline in when you're knitting lace, which is basically, it's like a save point in a video game. You take a piece of string or yarn or thread and put it through your stitches so that if you make an error in the lace, when you pull your stitches back, this will catch them and keep you from having to rip back too far and lose too much of your correct knitting. So after a couple hard mistakes with this pattern, I remembered I need to use lifelines with this. And even though it's simple, I'm not the best with lace. I'm out of practice. So I started using my lifelines, and it's gone much easier since. Wednesday the 11th. Now I got 2 kids home. Both of my older kids are home with upper respiratory infection. So nothing is getting done. It's like a test pattern. If you're old enough to remember when that was the test pattern on TV. Just beep. Nothing getting done. You just gotta, it's a holding pattern. Thursday, the next day, my son was back in school, and his kindergarten was having a parent school lunch where the parents come in and you can join your child for school lunch. So I had school lunch with my son and his classmates, his kindergarten classmates. Knock, knock, who's there? Interrupting cow, moo. Yeah, I heard that joke like 8 times from all the kids around me. It was the height of kindergarten humor. It was a fun afternoon. And I went to a pampered chef party with my neighbor's house on that night. Inevitable, house full of sick kids. Now I'm sick. Sore throat, itchy eyes, feeling crappy. Bleh. On Saturday the 14th, I say RIP to Disney Infinity, which if you're a video game person, you probably know about Disney Infinity. It was Disney's answer to Skylanders and Lego Dimensions and the Nintendo Amiibos. Very, very disappointed to hear that Disney decided to pull the plug on Disney Infinity. Not necessarily because the game wasn't selling well or not doing well, but from what I understand, it was decided that it just cost too much to keep it going and to produce the figures, so they are discontinuing it only after about 2 years. I mean, it has not been out for that long. And what makes it worse is in these days of cloud-dependent gaming, now that even though the game is discontinued, you know, with old games, you could still play what you had, but once they discontinue their servers supporting Disney Infinity, as my husband said, the game basically becomes a coaster. And that makes me very sad that we can't even continue playing what we have. For a while now, we will be able to, but there will come a point when the server support will go down, and then we'll have a bunch of lovely little Disney Infinity paperweights in our house, because we have a bunch of the little statues. Still working on my lace, on my wrap. Struggle is real, but getting better. It is getting easier. I'm getting back in the practice of it, not having to rip back as much. And finally, on the 15th, I did an 8-mile run in the wind. It was a beautiful day, but windy. Stopped by Starbucks and had some latte and made cupcakes for our last Girl Scout troop meeting of the year. And one of my girls gave me a beautiful hanging flower basket as a gift. She gave one to me and one to our co-leader. Right, I will be back later with part 2. Thanks a lot.